New York. New York's its own beast. Well, cool. When you travel, there's always a lot of challenges fitness wise, right? Because routine is thrown off. Your eating schedule is thrown off. There may be temptation food wise, especially if you're going to somewhere like Philly that has like cheesesteaks or something that's a regional dish. So obviously it can be, fairly challenging in that sense, which I'm sure you've experienced. Even not having your normal workout equipment available or your normal home gym as well. So what I want to talk about today is sort of how to address training and nutrition on the road, and also replicating your routine as much as possible, and also differentiating between like traveling for leisure or pleasure and traveling for work. Because there's two, like some people travel for work all the time, so they can't treat it like a vacation every single time. So the first thing that we want to look at is sort of like the eating part, right? So I don't know if you can see this meme that's going on here, but everybody knows this. You'll see people in the airport like having drinks at like 6 a.m. And I'm like, I don't even think you did a time zone change. I think you're just using it as an excuse to drink in the morning. That's what's going on there. So one thing I always recommend to clients is to pack snacks, especially for the airport or for days of transition and travel. So protein bars are great, nuts, dried fruits, things like that are non-perishable and are going to stick with you. Some of the pre-made protein drinks that don't need to be refrigerated. Like I literally went on a trip to Cuba and I bought 3 boxes of Quest bars with me one time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure like when they scanned my bag, they were like, what is wrong with this guy? But just having those available as stand-ins so you don't get caught and you're like end up at McDonald's or at the bar at 6 a.m. Another thing too, I'm sure you've experienced this, bottled water in the airport is inflated to like 8,000% for some reason. So, just having like a, refillable water bottle as well to bring with you. So I always make sure that that's a key feature that I have when I travel for hydration purposes. So simple things like that. The other thing, little known fact, you can prepare food and bring it on the airplane. So if you make a sandwich or a salad or something like that, you can bring it on as long as there's no liquids. And fun fact, hummus is considered a liquid by TSA.
Really?
Yeah, my fiance got caught with hummus on our way to Rome one time. Yeah.
They're not eating the hummuses I eat, which are as thick as paste. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know I think the TSA guy wanted to steal the hummus for himself. That's what I thought was going on there. But anyways, that's another story. So definitely packing food for the airport. So when you get to your destination, one of the main things that throws people off is you don't usually have your normal routine, right? If you're on vacation, you're waking up later, or if you have work, you're kind of at the mercy of someone else's schedule. So it's really important to maintain as much of your schedule as possible during that time, right? So having breakfast is key for most of us. You usually eat breakfast, right?
Yes, although if I'm not working out that day, the first thing I'll do is like prepare coffee and go to the gym and then eat
Afterwards. Okay.
Afterwards. But I mean, I still consider the first meal breakfast.
Yeah, it's like a morning meal, something like that, for sure. So I think like, making sure that you get some kind of breakfast in. It could be a bar in your hotel room, or it could be like go downstairs, avoid the muffin and the like pastries and go for like the fruit and like protein bar option or something like that. But at least don't skip that meal, because that's going to make you hungrier and kind of set you up for failure later in the day. So I think a lot of people will neglect it and be like, oh, I'm just going to eat a lot more later, and it ends up being bad choices. So at least get something in early in the day. Another thing, especially if you're trying to stay consistent, is log everything, right? We don't want to go into a period of mindlessness, especially when there's like unlimited food options and routine is thrown off. So you want to make sure that you're staying within the boundaries and parameters that you set. So what's one challenge that you think you could foresee with this in terms of being able to log while you're traveling?
Oh, well, just trying to eyeball the food and make smart estimates, but not knowing, like not having a label you can scan or a scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people aren't going to travel with a food scale or measuring cup. So exactly, I think being able to estimate the food to the best of your ability is going to be a challenge. But that's exactly what you need to do, because this is as much a mindfulness practice as it is actually about the data that you're collecting. So are you paying attention to what you're eating at all? Or did you just eat like 3 meals and not notice a single thing, especially because you have other stuff going on? So making sure that you're consistent with food logging, using MyFitnessPal or whatever method, taking pictures of food, however you're being mindful about it, is super important, especially like if you're going to like family dinners or something like that, visiting people. The other thing that I'll say, if you're on vacation, try to, if you're, with the caveat, of course, that you are trying to monitor your food intake, try to stick to one off-track meal per day. So like, you don't want to have like massive breakfast, massive lunch, massive dinner. That'll just be overdoing it. So it's like, eat a relatively normal portion breakfast, same for lunch or a lighter lunch, and then pick a restaurant for dinner that you want to go out to. That's going to be like your go-to dinner for the event, like that. So I usually like to do dinner because that's where like all the best dishes are and things like that. But try not to stack a full day of just like eating orgy, essentially, like that. Now, when you travel, do you try to like think in terms of when you're going to eat, foods that might be off track a little bit?
No, I haven't been super mindful of it. If anything, I fall into that mistake people do of like vacation rules applying.
Okay.
I'm also never gone super long though, but that's no excuse either. Like a lot of my trips are like Thursday through Sunday or like Thursday through Monday. It's a long weekend. Oh, I can do anything, but that's really bad. And like someone like me can do a lot of caloric damage in 4 days. So.
Sure. And also like, not only are you getting off track then, but then you have to come back and try to get back on track, which could be another few days. So it could actually, the trip may only be a few days, but then add tacked on, it could be almost a week. So you want to be careful about being as consistent, especially if you're in the beginning stages of building habits, then it's more challenging. Another thing too, like some people travel like 2-3 times a month for work. They can't constantly be falling off the wagon and getting back on, then there's really no purpose. So it's about maintaining it. And then, another thing to think about too, is you have the option to control your food intake by getting a hotel room with like a kitchenette or a fridge in it. And a lot of my clients that have, work option travel things, they can pick their room ahead of time. So I'll always recommend like, hey, like find where the nearest grocery store is and just stock up with things. And you have a microwave and you have a fridge. You can get like a rotisserie chicken. You can get some microwavable rice and things. You can prepare maybe half your meals in the room so that you're only really eating one meal out and you don't have to worry about that. So calling the hotel ahead of time and just reserving a room that has those options in it too is a good idea. And then lastly, our most important rule always is, what is it? Don't try to be perfect, right?
Except you're not going to be perfect, right?
Except you're not going to be perfect, right? So, things are going to be different. The environment is moving around you. So just giving yourself a little bit of grace while still trying to control what you can is important mentality wise, because if we're super binary about it and we screw up, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, we'll feel bad about ourselves and create like a negative feedback loop.
Sure. And just, then we'll get a case of the buckets. As plainly as I could say it. That's exactly what happens to most people. And they just kind of go off the rails like that. So we want to just remember, hey, we're doing the best we can. We're monitoring, we're taking these steps, but ultimately, like, we're going to be challenged throughout as well. Does all that kind of make sense about the nutrition? Do you have any questions about that?
No, smart, good tips for sure. Like I've utilized the refrigerator before, great resource to like go to the supermarket.
Yes. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention, for some people, alcohol should probably not be a morning thing, even on vacation. Despite this. Yeah, I mean, like if you're trying to eat those first 2 meals healthy, we want to limit that intake, even though people sometimes give themselves a free pass when they go on vacation. So let's talk about workouts. This is a little bit more fun stuff, right? When you travel, how do you usually handle working out?
I usually procrastinate and don't wake up early enough. So I have a plan to like use the gym at the hotel. And I'm probably less than 20% successful. Because my trips tend to be like super planned if I'm traveling like recreationally. So I know I'm going to need to carve out that time for myself, which would be waking up early. Like,
yeah, extra time. And you're probably your sleep schedule, you're not getting to bed as early because you're either in a different time zone or your schedule's thrown off. So it's just a kind of vicious cycle. I mean, you have to be realistic. Like if you have like a 14 or 15 hour day of traveling and all this stuff, like it may just not be a good day for the gym, which we can talk about. But if you're having a relatively normal day, like sometimes it's worth trading that hour of sleep for a workout. Because mentally we know that if we work out first thing in the morning, it's going to set ourselves up for success. Always a good move if you're staying at the hotel, get that wake up call.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Just tell me I have to go to the gym when you call me.
Right? Like a
Like,
human being accountability.
That's what it should be. The other thing is actually on vacation, sometimes we can end up being more active, which works in our favor. So I always say get your steps in. I always find myself like when I have a device on, like I wear an Apple Watch, is like when I'm traveling, I'll like double or triple my normal steps. But I'm
Yeah.
also going out of my way. I like to see places on foot. So I'll like, whereas, especially in LA, like you're driving everywhere, there I'll be like, well, I'll walk a couple miles to go see stuff and look around and everything. So take those advantages for walking. And that extends to the airport as well. I see so many people, they get to the airport and then they go sit in the on-call, like at their gate. Then they go sit on the plane and then they go out and they go sit in transportation to get where they're going. And then they get where they're going and they're sitting. And I'm like, why are you sitting to sit? Like when you're in the airport, you should get as much movement in as possible before you then go sit on like a 6 or 10 hour flight. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like you're rushing to go sit down again. Right. So, what I'll usually do is like just meander around for a while, just like walk around and look at stuff and like keep getting up routinely, and or doing some airport mobility, which will get you on YouTube or on influencers in the wild, but it's still worth it, I promise. So just doing some stretching at your seat, things like that. Do you notice your body getting stiff when you do like traveling days?
Sure, the flights are brutal. Like back east, straight shot, like 6 hours, cramped chair, and then usually once I get there, like I'm doing all the driving too, so it's seat to seat.
Seat to seat, right? So it's a good idea to just concentrate and keep your focus or mentality on, let me get as much movement in while I can. Sneaky little tip for the airport. I have one of these vacuum bottles, the metal ones. This is a foam roller, right?
Oh, smart.
So yeah, like it's an uncrushable cylinder. It's like a really good travel foam roller as well. And we'll get to kind of equipment you can bring, but that's one of my tricks is you can foam roll with the vacuum bottle in there, the metal bottle. But yeah, just doing some stretching, moving around, especially if you're going to be sitting for a while. Now, when you get to your destination, do you usually just focus on working out at the hotel room or the hotel gym rather?
Yes, usually the trips are so short and scheduled, that would be my best chance. Versus like I won't have time, but I could try to wake up earlier and find like an external gym, which would be cool.
Yeah, it's always cool. It's a good experience, like always just for the novelty, if you're into the gym, to check out like another location or another gym or something like that. Like what I'll usually do is I'll make it a point, if I know it's going to be a longer trip or I'm going to be moving around, to like pick a gym in each place that I'm going to go to. And if it's within like realistic walking distance or movement of where I'm staying or where I'm going to be, like I'll make it a point to drop in maybe every other day to a gym. If the gym has a hotel, obviously that's more convenient, but sometimes it's motivating to just be in a new environment to check that out. So best case, checking and dropping into another gym. Second best case, hotel gyms are, they're decent usually. Not always the best, but they're a good option. But there may not be that option all the time. So some other options would be, to find a park, like they have the pull-up bar set up usually in parks, things like that. Going for a jog, which, maybe not as fun as lifting weights, but if it's an option as well. The other thing you can do is, in like the worst case scenario, is do a workout in your hotel room, right? Have you ever done one of those, like a hotel room workout?
No, and I don't think I would have really known how now, but I do now. Like, like I feel like I have that skill set. I could pull up band work week and like reconstruct it in my.
Absolutely. I mean, and the cool thing is like, even if you just went out and like Googled, if someone like didn't have like, we're working together, I provide those resources for you. But if someone else was just like, I need help with this, you just Google like hotel room workout, 10-minute, 15-minute hotel room workout. And there's like a ton of content on YouTube. It's great. I would always say, like, if you want to upgrade your hotel gym kit that you can bring with you and you have some room in your travel kit, you can bring those bands that you have, longer pull-up bands. You can bring the mini bands, the little hip bands. You can bring a suspension trainer in your bag. You can bring, as for mobility devices, a lacrosse ball or this as a foam roller. They even make a collapsible foam roller that you can use as well, if mobility is something that you're worried about. So you can have a pretty solid set of items in your hotel room ready to go. So there's really no excuse at that point. I mean, you're going from the bed to working out. And remember, like, one of our rules we always talk about is something is better than nothing. So even if it's just 20 minutes, like, you made the conscious effort to move in there like that. So, for you, it seems like going to the hotel gym is usually your go-to.
Yes, yeah, especially if I'm back in Chicago. My firm is out of Chicago, so I feel like I stay in like better hotels when I'm there, and the gyms are pretty nice, like in the hotel.
Nice. Okay, that's perfect then. I mean, that's usually the best option, the meeting convenience and then the luxury of the equipment like that. So I would say like in your case, like scheduling your workouts within your, if you have room, like looking at your schedule ahead of time when you're there and just being like, okay, this time I'm going to schedule the workout, have the front desk call you for a wake up call to make sure that it happens and just kind of solidify and follow through on that behavior is definitely the way. If you don't have that though, which I actually put in here in this presentation that we've been going through, is I put an ebook together a couple of years ago for travel workouts for people, and I'll send it to you. And it's just 30 different travel workouts that require no equipment. So there's substitutions for stuff that you would find in the hotel room that you could use, like your suitcase or different items. But if you ever got, caught and you were like, I just need to do like a 20-minute little workout in the hotel room, boom, got you right here, covered like that. And guaranteed by the time you do one of the workouts, you'll look like the guy in that picture instantly.
Absolutely. Like
100% results guaranteed.
14-inch waist is in my, future. Like
there will weirdly be like green smoke behind you too. And you have a chain for some reason. No idea why, but there it is. And you look great.
Just want those like casual shoulder boulders, It's like,
yeah, your deltoid development is just preposterous as well. Strange how that happens with a quick hotel room workout, but good for that, right? But
well, I'll bring
yeah,
the chains too. That's what pushed.
yeah. Pack the chains. That's what it is. Awesome. Well, did you have any questions about sort of like the travel rhythm or anything like that, or anything that you'd practice that you think might be helpful to other people?
I mean, nothing jumps to mind. You know me, I'm always big on like studying menus. Not that you always know where you're going to eat, but even if you find out 10 minutes in advance, like anything, I'm on Yelp, I'm looking at the menu, trying to make better decisions in advance of sitting down to the meal, especially these like Cheesecake Factory 30-page 500 item mega menus. It's like, a human being can go insane and just spaz and make the worst possible decisions.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I think that's good advice anytime too, especially when you're going to go out to eat, even if it's local, is just to make sure that you're scouting ahead, you're planning ahead. Because if you get there, like you said, like you're probably going to just get enticed by a decision that's not in line with your current goals. You're going to make a non-delayed gratification decision and just go for it, very impulsive. And the same applies, especially when eating out. So, and thanks to the internet, like you can pull up any place's menu and just make that decision ahead of time. So that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Lots of Yelp mapping, knowing what your healthy go-to is if you're traveling. So for me, it's like Mediterranean, Greek, Mid-Eastern, like, okay, kebab and rice, like wherever you're at, as long as there's one of those restaurants, it's probably going to be pretty okay, or at least healthier than, oh, I didn't spend any energy on it and there's a pizza place nearby. Not to diss that pizza place nearby, but
no, it's probably delicious, but it's also probably like too many calories, not the right macros if you're, you have a specific goal in mind. So that's a great point. And I think like we were talking before, like how do you estimate? Like we can use the portion sizer for building a meal. So palm of protein, 2 fists of veggies, fist of carbohydrate, and a thumb of fat on a plate, and you'll probably be okay for most of the time. Just the fact that you tried and you thought about it is going to make you way better off than if you were just like, whatever happens.